Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be watching from, and welcome to AMN Healthcare Live's international show, Onwards and Upwards, where we discuss everything a global healthcare worker needs to know about living and working in the United States. I am your host, Danielle Friedman, and so happy to be here with you all today. Today, we have a very special show and very special guests, so we are very excited. If you are new and just joining us, welcome, welcome. We are AMN Healthcare International, where we offer direct hire and staffing opportunities all across the United States. So we are going to be talking a little bit more about those opportunities later today in our show. But thank you all for joining us. Please put in the comments where you are watching from. I love to see where our viewers are watching from. You know, I was thinking back, I've been doing the show for about 2-3 years now. And I just wanted to introduce myself for those of you who may not know me. So I am also an immigrant. I am from South Africa. So if we have any South African nurses, shout out to you. And we are so happy to have you all joining us today. So today we are going to be talking about a topic that is often underestimated, but very, very important in your journey. We are going to be talking all about the English exams. So I know whether it's the IELTS or the TOEFL, it doesn't matter. This is a critical piece in your journey, and it's very important not to delay in taking these tests. So we have got a lot of exciting topics that we're going to be covering all about the English exam. Let's bring up our topics. We are going to be getting an update from TruMerit. So who is TruMerit? You may or may not know. We are going to be hearing all about TruMerit. We're going to be talking about the importance of the IELTS and the TOEFL tests. We are going to be talking about the NCLEX and US Readiness. We have Dee coming on to talk about dream jobs in the USA. And we are going to be having our clinical corner with Holly. So lots to cover today. So I see we have Hazel from Zimbabwe. Hello to Hazel. We have Arlene watching from Jamaica. Hello, Arlene. Gabriel from Ghana. Kukukani from Zambia. Jace from the UK. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are so happy to have you here. If you are inspired by today's show and you would like to apply, our recruiters are on hand, ready and waiting to take your applications. Our link is amnhealthcare.com/international, and we are going to be dropping that in the chat. So while we have our guests here today, please feel free to drop any comments or any questions. I'm going to be monitoring the chat and taking your comments and questions. So please feel free to ask away. So without further ado, let's bring out our guests for today. Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing today?
Good morning.
Lots of smiling faces.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So happy to have all of you on today. We're going to go around and do some brief introductions. We have a wonderful expert panel with lots of varied experience. So I'm very excited to hear what you all have to say. Let's start to my left. Let's start with Michelle.
Good. Hello to everybody and to each guest. I'm Michelle Kilkenny. I'm the Senior Director of Immigration and Licensure at AMN International. I've been working here for 36 years. I'm an immigrant also. I came from Ireland in 1989. Many of you may not even have been born then, but I came here and my first job was with O'Grady International a week after I arrived. And we became part of the AMN family in 2001. So have been doing this a long time. And I am privileged to work primarily with nurses, but also with other healthcare professions, but primarily with nurses. And I still love what I do. So that says something. We've been through many visas, types of visas, retrogression, recessions, lots of travel bans over the years. It's nearly 4 decades. And we always come through. Everything is cyclical. That's what I tell people. And there's always an answer. So I'm happy to be here this morning.
Well, sounds like you have seen a thing or two, Michelle. So I am excited to hear what your advice and insight is today. Thank you for being with us. Let's go with Linda next.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So I'm Linda Belmedi, and A visa screen manager, TruMerit. I've been with TruMerit since June 2017, so like 8 years. I started as a international credential evaluator with TruMerit, then a program learning specialist, and now I'm the visa screen manager. I'm also an immigrant. I'm from North Africa.
Oh, very nice, Linda. Where are you from in North Africa?
Algeria.
Oh, very cool. Okay. We got lots of immigrants here today. Actually, we're all immigrants. So I think we all have a very unique perspective to share with everybody. And we cover all different parts of the globe. So that is pretty amazing. Okay, let's go with Polly next. Oh, you're on mute.
Polly.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Polly. I'm a nurse working in Kenya. I've been working in Kenya for the last 15 years. And now finally I decided, let me just change location and come to the US. So I'm on my USRN journey. AMN filed for me H1B visa. So I'm in the process of getting that, and I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm very excited to hear a little bit more about your journey and why you chose AMN, Polly. So we'll come back to that. Thank you for sharing. All right, Monique, let's go with you next.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, guys. I'm Monique. I'm a registered nurse from the Philippines since 2011, and I've been working as a nurse internationally for about 13 years now. I've been to Saudi Arabia, Africa, and I'm currently in Germany and looking forward to be working in the US.
Wow, so you have gone all over the world to work as a nurse. So I am excited to hear a little bit more about that. So Monique, let's go back to you for a second, and then Polly's going to share next. Can you share a little bit about why you decided to come to the US and why you decided to come with AMN?
Well, I think I would speak for a lot of Filipino nurses that one of our dream destination for our profession is the US. We've learned in our school days under the American curriculum and standards, so I think it is not like new to all the registered nurses out there that they all or we all wanted to have a future in the US as a nurse as a nurse. Why I chose AMN? Well, I will be honest, I tried different agencies. I applied in different agencies, but one of the most fastest responsive agency that I came through was AMN. Um, I would say that it just like in the span of 1 week, I received already a feedback from them. I was first offered a direct hire, no, not a direct hire position, but I am looking for a direct hire position. So I needed to wait a little bit longer, but it really did not took me a lot of time to receive what I wanted. So
Wow, well, that's very exciting to move around and then finally get the goal where you're looking to go to reach that American dream. So we're very excited that you're coming with us, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your English journey. What about you, Polly? Why did you decide to come to the US? Sounds like you've been working as a nurse for many years. I'm sure you have a whole life in Kenya. What made the decision to come with AMN?
So the reason that I chose to come to start the journey to come to the US is because there are better opportunities in the US as compared to my country, sorry to say. So I was actually looking into getting in, maybe getting into nurse management and probably doing a bit of research. So I looked up and I tried to get opportunities in my country, but that was impossible to get. So I decided, let me start on this journey. And I was excited to come across AMN on the internet because I met with a lady by the name Sarah Aristo, and I absolutely would say this girl is the best. She's amazing. So I kept on pressuring her to give me opportunities, which she kept sending to me, and eventually I got the H1B visa. I'm really grateful to ABN. It's been a really fast journey for me because I just completed my NCLEX in 2024 in November, and right now my petition has already been filed. So it's really been fast for me. I don't have to go through the retrogression. I'm excited and I'm happy that I didn't have to go through that. Thank you so much, Sarah. And
Wow.
amen.
Oh, well, I love Sarah too. She is amazing. She's one of our recruiters on the direct hire side. And just like all of the other recruiters, they are very on it, as I'm sure you both experienced. They're very good at matching nurses with good positions. So I'm glad that you both had a really good experience in that sense. So that's very exciting for you both. Can you both share a little bit about your English journey? So that's what we're here to talk about today. So Monique, we're going to turn to you first. Can you share a little bit of what your English journey has looked like and where you are now?
Well, I already have my test report. I already passed the English exam, the required score that I needed to be able to complete the requirements for the US application. Um, sorry, I am hearing some noises. Yeah, so I tried the test. I took the test, to be honest, 3 times. The first try was a paper-based exam. I took the test with my partner, and I got the higher score, but unfortunately for the required score for the speaking test, which is the required score of 7 for speaking, I didn't reach that. I got 6.5 on my first attempt. Well, the first reaction would be like it will be really frustrating, but somehow it didn't felt like it because I have a really good total score. I got a total score of 8. So um, I tried to think on the positive side that it might just be a hiccup and I can really do it. It's just maybe not my time yet. So I tried again. A few days later, I tried again to book the test. And fortunately, I got my score. I got 8 in speaking, which is more than I needed. But unfortunately, I didn't ask, or I was not really well informed that the computer home-based test is not accepted by CGFNS or TruMerit. So that was really frustrating because you already got what more than what you need, but it will not be accepted regardless of how good it is. So that hurt more than the first try. So well, I need to move forward and look again on the brighter side. So I decided to take it again. So I take it the computer-based test, but in the test center already because it is fast when it comes to releasing the results, and I needed to book it um, as much as possible so that my application and my process will be a little bit faster. So that was my journey.
Oh man, wow, that sounds like quite a journey and quite a learning experience. So I'm sure you have lots of tips after going through that whole experience. So we're going to dive into that. But congratulations on passing. I know for a lot of our nurses, I speak to a lot of nurses every week, and I think the English exam is sometimes more scary than taking the NCLEX exam. So kudos to you for keeping going and passing, because that's a huge feat and I'm sure very inspiring. So we look forward to hearing a little bit more about what advice you would give our nurses. I could guess a couple of tips, but we're going to hear a little bit more from you. Polly, let's turn to you next. Can you tell us a little bit about your English exam journey?
So the time that I came to AMN, I had not done English before. So it was my first time to do English. And now that I did my interview and I got the contract, I was supposed to do the IELTS exam in probably 3 months. So I didn't want to rush to do my exam. So I decided to take time. I used 909ers, which is a very, very nice program that actually allowed me to go through so many modules that enabled me to just pass my exam on the first try. I didn't want to go back and forth, so I took adequate time to study, which I always advise people, please don't rush to do your exams. NCLEX and IELTS as well, don't rush to do the exams. You better just take your time, and when you do it the first time, you get it right. So that's exactly what I did. So I took my time, I went through the modules, I did the speaking, I did a lot of mock tests, And eventually, when I did the exam on the first try, I scored a 7.5, which was enough to just take me through the journey. Yeah.
That's very exciting. I'm sure when you got those test results, you felt a huge sigh of relief. That is a good feeling. You can continue on with your journey. So thank you for sharing, Polly, and congratulations. And we'll hear a little bit more about your advice and your tips as we go through the show. But I want to put a pause and answer some questions that I think I'm receiving on who is TruMerit. What is TruMerit? So there have been some changes in US licensing agencies, and I'd love to hear from you, Linda. Can you give us a little bit of background? Who is TruMerit? I think we actually do know who TruMerit is. Maybe there's just been a slight name change, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more why there's been a name change.
Thank you, Danielle. So, as you know, TruMerit is or was CGFNS International. So, CGFNS International started back in 1977. So, we are like 50-year-old. So, we started by doing credential, evaluation for nurses, doing visa screen for nurses and other health professions. Then recently, we are doing other things. So, we do certification. We are going global. So this, had us to change our name to TruMerit. So the name TruMerit, it reflects, broader mission and also a diverse range of healthcare professions. It's supported beyond just nursing. So the name TruMerit emphasized the organization role in validating qualifications and achievement of healthcare professions. It signifies genuine excellence. So the rebranding signifies a new era, of global impact, concentrating on empowering healthcare professions, healthcare workers with knowledge, tools, and inspiration to achieve excellence. So this is the reason why CGFNS is now TruMerit.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Linda. I didn't even know that CGFNS had been around for so long. That is amazing. So sounds like CGFNS was more focused on nurses, and now CGFNS, which is now TruMerit, is taking more of a global view on all healthcare workers. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay, very, very interesting. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today. We are excited to hear your insight as we move through the show and we talk about everything that you need to get a visa screen in order to come to the US.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so let's switch back to English exams and let's talk about some of the basics. English exams are crucial, vital, required potentially, depending where you're coming from, to come to the United States as part of your journey to get to the United States. Let's talk about what they are and why they matter. So, Michelle, can you give us a little bit of background on what the IELTS is, what the TOEFL is, and what skills do they test?
Sure. English is very important for all of our international clinicians. There are only 6 countries which are considered English speaking who are exempt from English, and that would be Ireland, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and of course, if you're educated in the USA. It's all based on where you're educated as a nurse. So that you have to remember also, because you could have been educated in the US, even if you're from the Philippines, therefore you would be exempt from English. You need English for your visa screen or your healthcare worker cert, and that is required at the time of your embassy interview, whether you're coming as a Canadian on a TN status, or you're coming on a H-1B to work in America, or you're coming on an immigrant visa to work in America. At the interview, you have to produce your visa screen certificate. English is also required for licensure, and every state is different. So we'll talk more about that, but English is required for several states, and it depends again on whether you're educated in English or if you are from one of those English-speaking countries, or it just each board is different, and the test they accept could be different also. The English test is twofold. It's to qualify to get you the certificate, but it's looking at how your spoken English is, your written, your listening, and your writing skills. All of those are being assessed in the English test, and those are all really important. And so that's why you needed to get your visa screen to show that you're qualified to work in the US as an RN. But it's also important, not only as a test to get you a license or to get you the certificate, it's also important so that when you come to America, that you're comfortable having conversational English. So it's really something that you as a nurse or whatever profession you're in, if your plan is to come to America, you've got to understand that English is very important.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. We're going to dive into a lot of what you said as we move through the show, but I think some good insight there on what the English exam is and why it matters, not just for passing your test and getting your visa screen, but also once you're in the US and why it's so important. So I was just looking along in the chat as we were talking, and I see we got lots of people joining us. I wanted to say hello to. We have Matileli joining us from South Africa. Hello from South Africa. We have Freisha joining us from Kenya. Polly, another fellow countryman. Nestine, also from South Africa. And we have a question that we have from Keshanya, who is asking if we recruit nurses from Sri Lanka. So I believe so, Keshanya. You can apply on our website. We're going to drop that link in the chat. It's amnhealthcare.com/international, and our recruiters will be there to help you process your application, whether it's with direct hire or with staffing. We have many positions across both sides of AMN. So let's continue on. So Monique, I want to ask you, you took the exam 3 times, which takes a lot of persistence and a lot of discipline. What advice would you give to other international nurses who may not pass on the first time and might be feeling discouraged and may not know if they want to continue taking the exam?
Well, of course, it is normal to feel frustrated, to feel discouraged, to feel that, sorry to say the word, but you feel like stupid. But it doesn't define you. It's just an exam to test your ability to communicate in English and how far or how extent, in what extent can you communicate, or is your ability to use the English language. So it is more of like a test of patience as well, because preparing for the test is requires also a lot of time and patience. I would like to say that don't get um, don't get don't focus on the negative feelings. When you fail on the first try, it doesn't mean that you cannot make it through. You just have only you can tell if you are ready to take the exam. If you fail at the first try, just evaluate yourself. Why did it happen? Maybe you lack some practice. Maybe you are not yet prepared. In my case, I can also really tell what went wrong, because during the exam I felt like I did really well. I did very well. The examiner was like smiling at me. It's like she's like talking with me like a normal person talking to me. So it doesn't feel like a test. But well, unfortunately, I didn't get the score I expected. But during the test, I want you to feel like you're in a normal conversation, to get away the nerves and to get through the exam, and just wait what will be the result of this, and don't think ahead that it is always like it's a failure or something like that. It is a matter of holding on and believing in yourself that you can do it. Just keep on trying, and you can do it, like what happened to me.
Thank you, Monique, for those wise words and very encouraging words. I think it must be very inspiring for nurses to see somebody who may not have gotten the results the first time that they wanted, but kept going, because that's the important part. You can pass. Like you said, it's just an exam. It doesn't define you. It's just something you need to tick off in order to get that visa screen, to get to the US and reach that American dream. And once you pass, there's no looking back. You don't take it again. You continue on with your life. So thank you for those wise words. Polly, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to nurses who may be looking around, they're not sure how they're going to reach their American dream, they know that they want to come and they're considering it. Do you think that taking an English exam while they're interviewing or job hunting might be helpful? I know sometimes there are delays, you think you have time. Do you think it would be helpful to get ahead of those things?
I think it's really important to take your time to read and study, because I believe with more practice, you become perfect. So that's what I did, and I made it on the first try. So I would advise anyone trying to take the IELTS to just take enough time to study. You can go through the mock exams, which are readily available on the internet. Also on 909ers, they have very nice practice mock exams, which actually make you very ready to do the exam. It takes away all the nervousness. So if you practice enough for the exam, you will actually get it on the first try. Something else I'd advise people to do is actually when you're doing the speaking exam, you should actually be able to manage your time. Don't take so much time on a particular question. Be able to balance your time, because sometimes just time flies really fast and you're not able to remember where you are, and you end up not doing what you're supposed to have done. And when it comes to the listening, you really need to be extremely keen, because they play the recordings just once. So if you don't get it on the first try, you're not gonna get it. So I advise people to be extremely keen, especially when it comes to listening exams, because if you don't get it right, you're gonna be fixated on the questions that you didn't get right, and this is going to make you not answer the rest of the questions correctly. So I advise people to just do a lot of mock exams, because this helps. When it comes to the exam, it's just going to be a walkover. It's not gonna be hard for you. Yep.
Good advice, Polly. So slow and steady wins the race. Take your time, make sure you're studying, and when you're ready, take that exam. I think for a lot of you who may be watching with us today, you may be concerned. You're worried about retrogression. You're worried about delays. This is something that you can control. This is something that you can do with your time. Take your English exam. Take your NCLEX. Get ahead of it so that when you are receiving that job offer, which is very exciting, you don't have to delay. You don't have to wait. You don't have to get to that consulate interview and think, oh man, I still haven't passed, because at the end of the day, you never know. Monique was very ready, clearly, to take her exam, and it was just a matter of she didn't take the right exam. So things happen. The best thing to do is to get ahead of it, take those exams early, control what you can control in the process. So Linda, I'm going to turn to you. What are the required scores for the IELTS and the TOEFL in order to get a visa screen? Can you give us a little bit of insight there?
Sure. So for IELTS, we require an overall score of 6.5, and they need to score 7 in speaking. For TOEFL, it's an over of 81, and the speaking score should be no less than 24. And for listening, reading, and writing, all three combined, they need to score 57. So this is the requirement for visa screen for IELTS and TOEFL.
Okay, great. Thank you, Linda. So there's some good information for anybody who's watching and curious what scores they need in order to get a visa screen. So I saw a question from Jude in the chat I wanted to address. Jude says, is there an age limit? Quite hesitant to apply. I have passed my NCLEX exam. Well, first of all, Jude, congratulations on passing your NCLEX. That's the first step in your journey. So that's a big step. So congrats for passing. There is no age limit to apply. So we would love to have you apply and see if we have a great fit for you in the US. And while you are applying and going through that job hunting experience, we highly suggest you take your English exam. Start studying. Like Polly said, it is a marathon, not a sprint. You want to make sure that you are ready to take that English exam. So there's some advice for you there. So Michelle, I'm going to turn to you. We have been talking about the IELTS and the TOEFL, but there are other exams that nurses can take. We've all heard of them, the OET, the PTE. Why do you think it's much better to be taking the IELTS and the TOEFL? Why do we recommend that to our nurses?
So we recommend it to our nurses because of where we have jobs. So there are some states that won't accept, for example, another type of test. And so if a nurse has taken, let's say they've taken PTE and the board does not accept it. For example, I think it's Tennessee doesn't accept PTE. If we're going to place you in Tennessee, it's going to require you taking English again. We don't know that you won't qualify for the license. So we're thinking long term when you take the English exam, which is why we prefer IELTS and TOEFL. Now, there are other tests. There's reasons for other tests. OET, that's starting to be accepted in a lot more states. However, it's still not accepted in a couple of our major states. Like, we have jobs in most of the states, but there are certain ones where there are more job orders than there are others. And we're thinking long term, we're thinking of our nurses having what is needed to get them a license to start work eventually when they're in America. PTE, the reason we're hesitant with PTE is while the scores are still, they're quite low. Their acceptable passing scores are quite low in comparison to other tests. And while they are accepted in some states, they aren't in others. But for visa screen, the passing speaking score, for example, is only 50. However, if you want to get a license in, let's say, I think it's South Carolina, they want 66 in speaking. And a lot of people don't get 66 in speaking on that test for some reason. Now, there are many who get really good scores there. But again, we're thinking broad scheme. We're not just thinking of English for your visa screen. We're thinking of English down the road when you go to endorse your NCLEX license to the state of employment. And that's why we prefer to accept IELTS and TOEFL, because they're broadly more accepted everywhere, especially where we have positions. And so that's really the reason. And again, there are other tests. You can get the list anywhere. TruMerit has a list of them. There's MET, there's Cambridge, there's a lot of other tests. We just specify these two for our company because of where we have job orders.
Okay, that makes sense. So what I'm hearing is we accept any of them. However, the least restrictive when you come to apply for your visa screen, potentially for your license, basically more options for you in the States is probably going to be the IELTS and the TOEFL. Does that kind of sum it up? Okay. So I saw we had a question from Mpale about the OET. So there you go, Mpale. If you've already passed, you can apply and our recruiters will match you to states that accept the OET and where we think you are going to be the best fit. You can apply on our website, amnhealthcare.com/international. Okay, so Monique, I want to ask you, what ability did not passing the English exam have on your processing? What role did it play? Did it stop you from moving forward? Did it delay your processing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, actually, at first I thought before I move on to the process, I need to have passing or already a finished English test. But along the way, I was informed by one of the staff from the AMN that I can go and start with the visa process. So a visa application. So I started uploading already my documents and all the necessary requirements, and leave the English test exam as for later. That in that way, I already am done with all the other papers that needed to be submitted, and just waited for me to have my passing English test and upload it afterwards. So that made it a little bit faster for me because I I am just focusing on the English test at that time because I am already done with the other required documents. Yeah, I find it a little bit easier in that way. So I think I can also advise other people who are also planning to process their visa application to also start uploading or just fulfilling all the requirements, and then to the one of the hardest part, which is IELTS, because you need to take the exam, you need to prepare for it. You can focus on it on the time that it is the only thing that you needed to focus on. In that way, you also have a lot of time to have for your IELTS, for your preparation. And like I said, one of the most important thing is to be well informed of what is not accepted by the CGFNS or the TruMerit, because um, it also can take a lot of time from you if you will not be well informed. Like what happened to me, I already did everything, and then I needed to waited a little bit longer because I needed to repeat my exam because it was not accepted by the visa application.
Okay, thank you, Monique. That all makes a lot of sense. So I want to just clarify something that you said. You said that you submitted your application, you filed your petition, and then you started studying for the English exam because you only needed it at a certain time. Michelle, do you want to clarify
I'm
something,
sorry.
Monique?
Yeah, I already submitted all of the required papers and documents, and then I waited for me to take the exam because along the way I'm already studying for the IELTS. I'm already preparing for it. But what I'm trying to say is that before I focus on the IELTS,
Mhm.
I already finished and I'm already done with uploading all the necessary documents so that I have already that behind me, and then when the time comes that I need to take the exam, I am already focused on the exam.
That makes sense. So you did your homework before, you made sure that you had all the documents and everything prepared so that when you took the exam, you were ready to go. So, Michelle, can we clarify something for our audience? So, I think there's this feeling generally among our audience that, especially for those who are unfortunately subject to retrogression, that they have a lot of time, which potentially they do. But then I'm seeing a lot of delays in people studying for their English exams, people taking their English exams, and sometimes there's unknowns. You never know what's going to happen. You hope that you are going to pass on that first time, but potentially there might be a technicality. You never know. And then there might be unnecessary delays. So, what advice and what thoughts do you have for our nurses who are currently thinking about studying for the IELTS? Maybe they're in the interview process, maybe they're in the waiting process, they're waiting in line, and they haven't passed their IELTS. What kind of general words of advice do you have based on what you're seeing on the ground?
I would say I wonder sometimes people don't realize how important the English exam is, and they think that they can wait to take it. But like you said, you don't always pass with the first go. And remember, once you pass English, the English scores are valid for 2 years. But as long as you get your visa screen in process and completed in that 2 years, the visa screen or a healthcare certificate is valid for 5 more years. So you will have that certificate. It's valid for 5 years. You just needed to get that immigrant visa at the interview. We recommend getting your English done. We try and emphasize how important it is. And I really want to reiterate what Polly said. I love everything. I'd love to have her on more shows, especially with Niner, because we provide Niner to our clinicians as an educational source to study for English, whether it's TOEFL or IELTS. And we can't emphasize it enough. Take the course. Don't just sort of look at it and then go off and do the test. Use the resources you're being given. Use them fully. Take those mock tests. Because I think, even me coming from Ireland, when you take a test in America after coming from another country, we're used to writing essays. In the States, they're used to multiple choice. It's the same with taking an English test. you've got to learn how to take the test. And again, like Polly said, listen, there are tricks to the trade, and it's not even tricks. You just need to learn how it's been given. And that's what Niner does. It tells you how that is given, how you should look at a question, and how you should proceed with the test. So use your resources. Take every module they're giving. Take every mock test they're giving. Take every practice test they're giving, because that's what will make you successful. When we look at people who pass versus fail, the ones that fail, they usually haven't used a lot of the course, because you can see if they've used 5% or 100% of the education course with Niner. And you can tell when people haven't used the course, they're not as successful. They rush into the test, rush into retesting. Use the resources that are being given it to you, whether it's for English or for NCLEX. Study and follow every module, because that's what it's all about. That will help you be successful. But I say get your English done as quickly as possible, as soon as your I-140 is filed. That's just my opinion in all our years, because you're right. People are passing NCLEX faster than they're passing English for whatever reason. And again, it can be quite subjective, I think, sometimes, depending on where you take it. So I suggest realizing that English is important for your journey. And can I just say one thing about the scores that were shown earlier? I apologize. The IELTS scores were listed earlier, and the TOEFL. It said 6.5 for reading, writing, and listening. When it comes to your certificate, it's actually only speaking and overall. That's all that matters. 7 in speaking, 6.5 overall. Now, when it comes to endorsement, there are some states that say you have to have over 6 in the other areas, but others don't say that. So if you get 5 in reading, but you get 8 in listening, you may still get 6.5 overall. So I just wanted to clarify that people don't understand that you have to be able to read the scores depending on what you need them for.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, that's why you are the expert, and that is why you are here today. You have seen a thing or two, so thank you for all of that advice. I think as we said, things are cyclical, and as we see the cycles move through, it's good to have those tips and tricks. And one of those big tips that I'm hearing from Michelle after many years of practice is to do that English exam ASAP. You want to get it done and dusted so that you can move on with your process. You don't want to have those unnecessary delays. So I see we have a couple of questions that are for Michelle in the chat. So Michelle, there is one question here from Randich, who is asking, after how long will you apply for the visa screen after applying for an I-140? Are you able to answer that one for us?
Yeah, I mean, well, for us, because I know we're talking to a broader audience here, but my team will monitor the English scores and base it on that, because we do have retrogression. So there could be a 2-year, 2.5-year period before you're eligible for a visa. And so we monitor when your English is going to, is valid for, on when we will apply for your visa screen.
There you go, Randich. And that's why you want to work with a company that has been doing this and really knows what they're doing, knows the ins and outs, knows the little tips and tricks, because that's very important when you're thinking about timing and applications. You don't want your English to lapse or your NCLEX to lapse without getting that visa screen. So very important, minute details that our team can help you with. I see a question from Antoinette, who is asking, what visas are you offering? Is it EB3 visas or H-1B visas? So Antoinette, we have positions under both EB3 and H-1B visas. It just depends when you apply and when you are matched with a job and what is available. So please feel free to apply on our website, amnhealthcare.com/international, and our recruiters will help you figure out what is going to be the best job for you. So I want to talk a little bit more about the licensing process in general. So we've talked about the visa screen, we've talked about the English. These are key components to the licensing process, but let's talk about the licensing process in general. Linda, can you tell us a little bit about the role that TruMerit plays in the licensing process? And to add on to that, what's one mistake that you see that often delays nurses getting a visa screen? How can we avoid that?
So, TruMerit actually, we offer two services. So we have a credential evaluation service, which is CES. And for this service, the applicant will receive a report, which is a professional report. Some of them use academic report because they want to go to school in the United States. But most of the application are professional report to get a license in a state in the United States. So this is the role of TruMerit. So we evaluate the education of international educated nurses against the RN, first level RN standards. This is the role, TruMerit plays in licensure. After they get their CS report, they can then apply for a visa screen, certificate. We already have their documentation, so we're not asking them for other documentation. The only thing we'll ask them, because CS report is really depend on the standard of the state. Some state they will ask for ELP, which is the English language proficiency exam. Other state they won't. But for the only document we will ask more once they have the CS report and they are applying for a visa screen is the ALP and also NCLEX pass. So this is the role, TruMerit is playing for licensure. We verify education. The common mistake we see is, and it's actually what Monique mentioned earlier. She made sure to submit all her documentation before taking the ELP. Then she had the time to do the ELP. A lot of applicants, they take ELP years ago and they apply for visa screen thinking that we still can use the ELP. For visa screen, ELP is valid for 2 years. So if you take, your ELP before those 2 years, we cannot, accept. So you will be needing to sit for another exam, which will delay your application. Also, there was another, common mistake we see from a lot of applicants is when they, their school is closed, so they apply for visa screen, but they don't know where their documents are. My advice is before you apply for visa screen service, you may, inquire where your documents are archived if your school is closed. We had a lot of applicants with, this issue. Sorry. So my advice is really to make sure to contact your school if it's still operational, letting them know that you were going to apply for a TruMerit visa screen certificate, and you will be asking them to send us document. Also, go to your licensing authority bodies and ask them, to get ready to receive a request to verify your license, to be sent to TruMerit. And if your school is closed, you need to inquire and see where your documents are archived. So this will not, delay the process. This will help you to get your visa screen fast, even if the visa screen application is open for 12 months. But our goal is really to issue the visa screen certificate as soon as possible once we gather all the required documents.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Good information for our nurses who are watching along and might be considering getting a visa screen from TruMerit. Some good advice there. Michelle, I know we are close to coming up on time, but I'm sure a lot of nurses are curious about the licensing process in general. Can you maybe give us a brief overview of the basic steps of the journey of a nurse from taking that NCLEX through the licensing process?
Sure. I would suggest that the first thing is to decide where you want to apply for your NCLEX license, what board, and to take into consideration, we know what boards we would use, because you want a board that will issue you a license after you pass NCLEX without needing a social security number. So that's really important. Like 20 years ago, a lot of nurses were applying to California for their NCLEX, but they never got a license. All they have is their pass letter, which makes it really awkward when you eventually get your visa and you want to get endorse your license. There are a lot more steps you have to go through. So do your research, pick that board that will issue a license, and find out what they need. And so most boards will want some sort of credentialing report. my suggestion is you apply for the credentialing report first, because that takes longer. Now, it's not as long as it used to take. The TruMerit have gone leaps and bounds in how they obtain documents electronically from different schools. So it's a much faster process, but I still would get the CES credential report started first, because depending on the board you use, some boards only allow their application to be valid for, let's say, 6 months or a year. And so you may have to reapply again once the CES report is issued. So it's do your homework and apply, know how long the application is good for, and maybe delay applying to the board until you know your CES is nearly ready for that board. And so those are little tricks that you sort of need to be aware of. And on the other side is study, do the modules, do the mock tests, learn how to take the exam, because NCLEX is about book knowledge. You may be an experienced nurse with 20 years experience, but the questions, a lot of them are going to be on the books. So study. It's also on your critical thinking skills. So really use those. It's not going to ask you for sort of just basic answers on what you do day to day. It's going to ask you, how would you do such and such? They're trying to get your critical thinking skills. And so that's really important when you're studying for NCLEX. But once you pass the NCLEX, save that pass letter. Do not delete it. Do not lose it. Save it somewhere, because you will be asked for that again and again over the years. Even when you're in America for a while, you may be asked for your NCLEX pass letter. Just they want to see the data. And then also get your license issued. Don't forget to get your license issued once you pass NCLEX. Then it's a matter of endorsing into the state of where you're going to end up in America. And again, sometimes, depending on where you're going to work in America, once you get your visa, you may not be able to apply until after you get here and have a social, or you may be able to apply tomorrow and get the license in hand, even if you're not coming for 2 years. Every state is different, and that's where our team have the knowledge and can prepare and have an action plan for each clinician on when we were going to apply for their license, apply for their CES. Again, it's all about timing. I hate to tell you, but it's all about timing and for endorsement after you're waiting for your visa to be issued. Some boards, if you send them the CES, it's going to expire after a year, whereas other boards will mind it, will hold it and use it 2 years later. So it's all about timing and knowing when to apply, so that you get to America and have a license in time to start your assignment. It's quite complex, but we have experts and we can guide along the way.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle, for taking us through a lot of those steps. I think if you're just seeing this for the first time, or even if you've been seeing it for many, many times, it can feel very overwhelming. It's an overwhelming process. Polly and Monique are going through it right now. Linda, Michelle, and I have gone through the immigration process. It's extremely exciting, but it's also very overwhelming and very anxiety producing. I can see Monique shaking her head like this. I think we all kind of know those feelings. And that's why working with somebody who has the expertise and can help guide you and lead you through that road is so, so critical. And I hope that our takeaway from today for any of our nurses who are watching right now is that with visa retrogression, the timeline is not necessarily in your hands. You don't have control. But what you do have control over is taking your exams early, making sure that you have them done, making sure that it's not going to delay your processing, making sure that you can come to the US as fast as possible. You might get lucky like Polly and have a fast process. You might get a special type of visa. But even then, you still need to pass that English exam, and you don't want to delay any more than you need to. So our advice, I can see everybody shaking their head like this. Our advice to you is don't let the exams stop you from reaching your dreams. Continue on with your processing. Make sure to pass those exams as early as possible, because we want to get you here. You can get here. Look at Polly and Monique. They are on their way. They are going to be here soon. So hopefully their stories have inspired all of you today. Hopefully Linda and Michelle have provided us with so much insight and lots of tips and tricks. I know I learned a lot of stuff here today. So thank you all for being here with us today. It was great to meet you, great to have you. Thank you for sharing your advice and your expertise. There's still some questions in the chat, so please stay on. We're going to be answering some of those as we do our Dream Jobs with Dee and Clinical Corner with Holly. But just want to say thank you to our expert panel for being here and sharing your stories and your wise words of advice. I know I was inspired, and I'm sure a lot of our nurses who are watching were inspired as well. So thank you all so much for being here today. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so I see we still had so many questions in the chat. I did want to just address a couple of the questions about immigration, travel bans, you know, a lot of questions in that sort of line of questioning, and remind you to please join our immigration shows. So we host once a month immigration shows with expert attorneys who give their advice, give their insight on a lot of topics, including the travel bans. So that is where you can get those answers. We have amazing attorneys that come on and they can give you all of the advice and thoughts on those topics. We're going to bring on Dee, and she can answer all of these questions about openings, employers. So we are going to ask her. So without further ado, let's bring out Dee for Dream Jobs with Dee. Hi, Dee.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It is so great to be here. I was backstage listening to all of the great information that was shared with you all today. And while it may seem very overwhelming, the great thing is about choosing to work with AMN Healthcare International is that you have an expert team that will help guide you through every step of the process with over 40 years of experience with doing so. So hope that it was helpful and informative. Our goal here on these shows is to provide the education that you need for the exciting pieces of the process and, you know, the not so exciting pieces like studying for English, which is a critical part of your journey. So I am here today to talk about one of the exciting parts of your journey, which is choosing your job once you arrive here in the US. Well, you choose it prior to arriving in the US. So just as a reminder, AMN Healthcare International is the only organization that provides both staffing and direct hire opportunities. So we do have a few jobs that we want to highlight today, but before we get to that, I do want to just address a couple of questions that came into the chat as I was backstage in regards to experience needed to qualify for our program. I saw a couple of questions about I'm still studying, I haven't taken NCLEX yet, can I start the process right now? So right now in this environment, our clients are looking for current bedside experience. NCLEX is a must. English is always required. You don't need to take it immediately, but in certain cases, like the jobs that we're going to talk about today, those who have passed English will be prioritized in order to interview and accept an assignment. So that's why English is really important to focus on and take as quickly as you can. But you all saw the visa bulletin that came out recently, and we saw rest of world progress, and we saw the Philippines not do so. So if you are one of those individuals that wants to get to the US quickly and establish that priority date immediately, then choosing a staffing opportunity is going to be your best opportunity. So please make sure that you are applying today. The handle will go up here again. Our recruiters are on hand to help you decide what is your best route, but getting that priority date established is going to be key for you. So we have got many EB3 opportunities available in our staffing division. And the great thing is you have time to choose your perfect location. So with that, I am going to talk about our highlighted jobs of the week. If we can bring up our slide. Okay, so the opportunities that we're going to talk about today are for direct hire. So you heard Monique talk about how direct hire was something that she really wanted, but she had to wait a little bit more, right? So that's okay, right? And Monique got the position that she wanted, so we're very, very happy for her. But the opportunities that we are talking about today are located in St. Louis, Missouri. So the specialties that we are looking for are CVOR, emergency room, traditional OR, ICU, and BMT, which is bone marrow transplant. So NCLEX will be a requirement. Passing NCLEX will be a requirement for these positions. 2 years plus experience currently working in an acute care facility of 100 beds or more. So again, it is a very competitive landscape right now, and English passers will be prioritized for being scheduled for an interview. And we do have interview events that are taking place later in July. So we will start filling those slots up next week. So if you are interested in these opportunities and have the experience that I just talked about, please get your application in at amnhealthcare.com/international. And if you do not qualify for these particular positions, we still want to hear from you. We still want to talk to you about our many staffing opportunities that we have available so that we can get that all-important priority date secured for you. So thank you so much. I look forward to being here again in a couple of weeks to talk about some more dream jobs. But to echo what Danielle just said, if you haven't, please make sure that you're watching those immigration shows. There was a great one a couple of weeks ago that talked about a lot of the questions that are coming into the chat, and you hear from our expert attorneys. So that's a great resource for you if you have ongoing questions regarding what's going on from an immigration standpoint.
Okay, well, thank you, Dee. That is a very exciting job of the week to go to St. Louis, Missouri. I know I've been there, and it's an amazing city. So that sounds like quite an amazing opportunity. I do see some questions in the chat for you, Dee, about nurses who are in other specialties. So are we also looking for other specialties, or are we only looking for those specialties?
For this particular position right now, for the interviews that are scheduled for later on in July, I want to say the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of July will be concentrated on those particular specialties. So CVOR, BMT, OR, ICU, and emergency room. So just for those, just for that particular facility that's looking for those particular specialties. However, we are always looking for qualified applicants in almost all specialties, right? So if you are a medical surgical nurse, a nurse who works in any type of cardiac unit, then we want to hear from you, right? So again, we are the only organization that offers both direct hire and staffing. So if your goal is to get that priority date secured, then we want to hear from you and get your I-140 filed immediately. Michelle, you just saw her. Her team takes care of all of that, and we can file that immediately for you because nobody knows what the visa bulletin is going to do next month. So you really want to get that priority date secured so that if it does go further behind, at least that's secured for you. And that will be the date that will be yours forever until you arrive in the US.
Can't control the visa retrogression timeline, but can control when you apply, can control when you get your priority date, can control when you take your NCLEX and your IELTS. So all a very, very good advice, Dee. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
So if you were inspired and would like to apply on our website to one of those job of the week positions, you can apply at amnhealthcare.com/international. And please also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date with our latest job opportunities. We are constantly posting about our new and exciting job opportunities, and you want to be that first in line to get that opportunity. So let's bring out Holly for our clinical corner.
Hi, Danielle. How are you? Good to see you. Enjoyed hearing everything that's been shared today. All very good reminders of the opportunities that folks have to join our team and make use of our expertise so that they can get moving forward, and the best way to do that. Danielle?
I think maybe we lost Holly. Oh, no, there she is.
I couldn't hear you. That was so
Show,
weird.
everybody. That's what happens on the live show. There she is. As soon as I came on picture, she became a little bit more clear. So, Holly, let's hear from you. What have you got for us today on the Clinical Corner?
Based on the fact that there are so many different things that nurses find new and different when they get to the US, I wanted to share some of the key factors that allow nurses here in the United States to make a difference to the patient's clinical outcomes. Sometimes this is one of the most exciting aspects of the role when nurses get here and realize how much opportunity they have to not just save a life, but impact a life and impact the experience that the patients are having. So US nurses are the last protective barrier the patient has when they're receiving care. They have a major role to play in helping patients recover as quickly as possible, prevent complications, and feel like they had excellent care. Even if it was a difficult experience, their impression of how well their care was provided by our team, including nurses, is something that is monitored very closely, actually. In some countries' care models, those things are more aligned with physician roles. So here's a few elements nurses can use to impact the clinical outcomes. Assessment. Your assessment skills are going to be needed so that you quickly capture abnormalities or changes. If you're listening to a patient's heart and lung sounds as your head-to-toe assessment is being conducted, and you see something different from what you got in your shift report, or you hear something different, you can request a physician, obtain additional diagnostic orders, get a better sense of what's happening with that patient. Are they developing new onset pneumonia? And in this case, your assessment and quick action ensures early diagnosis of a problem like that and treatment. It's why we actually do head-to-toe assessments so frequently, day in and day out, shift to shift. It's a huge, important skill. If you don't have a stethoscope, please get one, start practicing, even if it's just at home. Get really comfortable with handling that. You'll need it on your first day on the unit and every day thereafter. Communication. Nurses do a significant amount of education about the current treatment plan, medications, how they are going to work, and discharge planning, among other things. So building rapport with that patient so that when you communicate, you're effective means you've got to be good with your verbal and your nonverbal communication. In the US culture, good eye contact, direct eye contact, active listening, and those therapeutic communication techniques that you review for NCLEX, you have to use those. That helps ensure that patients and families hear or feel that their concerns are being heard. And they're more likely to trust and confide in you with the information you need to care for them holistically. Care. Many nurses are surprised by the amount of emotional support they will provide to patients in the US healthcare system. But patients are anxious and frightened, and they're looking for reassurance that they can trust the medical team to do what's in their best interest. So it's much less common for family to remain at the patient's bedside during that hospitalization, and they're more likely then to look for nurses to connect with them on a personal level, to calm their fears, help them understand what's happening to them. They're more likely to then feel cared for and confident that they know or will be informed what they need to know so that they can make those decisions about their care. And finally, technology and hands-on skills. You notice I didn't mention those first, but electronic medical record keeping is a skill, and it's really important to be prepared for that. Be comfortable with computers. If you have a chance to use a system, use it to its fullest ability, but be ready for that challenge when you get here so that you hopefully adapt quickly. Vital sign machines, cardiac monitors, IV infusion pumps, those are all things you could see in a med-surg unit, much less in a higher acuity area. Being able to safely perform sterile dressing changes and sterile procedures without breaking sterile field, that's basic. So those things are going to be things that serve you well. But if you don't have those other three elements developed, it can be a real struggle. So that's it for our clinical corner today. I hope you found this information helpful and you get some opportunity to practice putting these concepts into play as soon as possible.
Thanks, Holly. Awesome tips as always. Always good to hear from you and get some tips for our nurses to think about while they're processing or even while they're in the US. So thank you so much for being here with us today. It was nice to see you.
Great to see you too, Danielle. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right, so let's look at our schedule upcoming for the next month. We have an exciting schedule on our Onwards and Upwards show. July 10th, we are going to be doing an employer showcase. July 17th, we have that immigration Q&A, both shows from 7 to 8 Pacific Standard Time, California time. So please bring your questions, especially those of you who had questions about immigration, about travel bans. Bring those questions to that immigration Q&A. Our experts are going to be ready and waiting to take those questions. We also have our AMN Academy. So these are free shows, everybody, every Monday from 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with our partners 9.09er and iPass. These are free NCLEX classes, free English classes. We've talked about how a lot of things are out of your control during this immigration process, but not taking your NCLEX and not passing your IELTS. You have that in your control. You just need to sit down, study, work hard, and you can pass. We have faith in you. Just have faith in yourself. You heard from Monique, you heard from Polly, who are two nurses who have gone through this experience, who have passed and come out on the other side. And their tips were, number one, get started. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's something you want to take your time with, make sure that you are ready, and make sure that you pass on your first try so that you can put it behind you and move forward with your journey. So if you are watching with us today and you were inspired and you would like to apply on our website, that's amnhealthcare.com/international. And our recruiters are on hand, ready and waiting to help you with your staffing or direct hire applications. So thank you all for being here with us today. I hope you found this show helpful. It was great to see everybody. Thank you for your questions and your comments, and we will see you again next time. Onwards and upwards, everybody. Have a great weekend.